Hello viewers, today we will be going to discuss on some very important and interesting aspects of lipid metabolism. Coming to peroxisomal beta oxidation, we know that beta oxidation normally takes place in the mitochondria, but beta oxidation may even take place in the peroxisomes of our cell. The main aim of peroxisomal beta oxidation is to reduce the chain length of very long chain fatty acids which have more than 22 carbon atoms in their skeleton. Now, the two pathways, the mitochondrial and the peroxisomal beta oxidation, differ significantly in the participation of their enzymes. And one important difference is that carnitine is not at all required in the peroxisomal beta oxidation. So what happens? At first, the very long chain fatty acids enter directly into the peroxisomal compartment, and there they are acted upon by the very long chain fatty acyl-CoA synthetase enzyme, and then they are reduced down to their lower homologues, and finally they are condensed with carnitine and they are then subjected to beta oxidation in the mitochondrial compartment. Coming to a new topic which is called the X-adrenoleukodystrophy or XALD. This is actually a X-linked inherited genetic disorder in which there is a deficiency of very long chain fatty acyl-CoA synthetase enzymes. So what happens? The very long chain fatty acids accumulate in the blood that leads to a degradation of the myelin sheath that actually covers the cells of our nervous system. Coming to the bacterial beta oxidation pathway. Now, bacteria which grows in the presence of ample of fatty acids, they can induce their beta oxidation pathway, whereas in those bacteria that do not grow in a medium containing ample of fatty acids, their beta oxidation pathway is kept switched off. Coming to the beta oxidation system in the seeds. Now, in case of plant seeds which contain a lot of free fatty acids and it is very much lipid rich, the enzymes of the beta oxidation pathway are induced and present very much, and there the beta oxidation pathway takes place in the microbodies known as the glyoxysomes. But in case of seeds in which lipids are not present in that higher amount, the beta oxidation pathway in those seeds take place in the mitochondria as usual. Coming to a very interesting aspect of lipid metabolism is the generation or the production of metabolic water. Palmitic acid that has 16 carbon atoms will produce 16 moles of metabolic water. For example, in case of camel, we all know that they survives in desert area for very long periods of time without drinking much water. So what is the mechanism behind? Their hump contains a lot of lipids rich in fatty acids which undergo beta oxidation with the generation of metabolic water that helps in the long drawn sustenance of camels in the desert arid climate. Also, in case of kangaroo rat, the metabolic water generation helps them to survive for long periods of time without actually drinking normal water. Coming to some minor pathways of fatty acid oxidation, the first and foremost is the alpha oxidation pathway that are applicable only for the long chain fatty acids. Now, what is alpha oxidation? It means the removal of one carbon unit from the alpha carbon atom of the fatty acids. And these have been discovered first in the seeds and the leaf tissues of plants. Coming to the occurrence of the alpha oxidation, as I have already mentioned, it takes place in the seeds and the leaf tissues of plants and in the microsomes of brain and other tissues of animals. Coming to its subcellular occurrence, alpha oxidation gets completed in two steps. The first one is the hydroxylation that takes place in the mitochondria, and the second step is the oxidative decarboxylation that takes place in the endoplasmic reticulum of a cell. Coming to some salient features of alpha oxidation, first and foremost, it is applicable only for the long chain fatty acids like the lignoceric acids, the nervonic acids, and the branched chain phytanic acids. Molecular oxygen is indirectly involved, as also there is no generation of any high energy rich phosphates. Coming to the mechanism of alpha oxidation, first and foremost there is a hydroxylation reaction at the fatty acid C alpha atom. This hydroxylation reaction is followed by a oxidative decarboxylation reaction of this alpha hydroxy fatty acid to yield a fatty acid with an unsubstituted C beta. After this is completed, this compound then enters the mitochondria for getting acted upon by the beta oxidation enzymes present within that organelle. If we look at this mechanism in details as is shown in this slide, first the long chain fatty acids with n number of carbon atoms is acted upon by the enzyme alpha hydroxylase or monooxygenase in presence of oxygen, magnesium ion, NADPH and H+ together with a heat stable cofactor and generates alpha hydroxy fatty acid with the introduction of a OH group at C2 or C alpha atom. Then it is converted to the alpha keto fatty acid. After that, it undergoes oxidative decarboxylation in presence of oxygen, ferrous iron and ascorbate and produce a long chain fatty acid that is shortened of one carbon. That is, it has N-1 carbon and the one carbon unit goes out in the form of carbon dioxide. Now this particular fatty acid that is shortened of one carbon atom enters the mitochondria to continue with the normal beta oxidation pathway. Now I would like to share with you an important physiological example of alpha oxidation. Alpha oxidation enables the mammals to oxidize phytanic acid to pristanic acid. Now, phytanic acid, it is a branched chain fatty acid with the name 3,7,11,15 tetramethyl hexadecanate, and it is the oxidative product of the phytol chain of chlorophyll. As can be shown in this particular slide, first chlorophyll which we intake from the plant sources, phytol residues are present in chlorophyll. Now from phytol we get phytanic acid out of oxidation of phytol. Now after they are taken up by the peroxisomes, phytanic acid is converted to the phytanoyl CoA. Next, this phytanoyl CoA will undergo alpha oxidation to produce 2-hydroxy-phytanoyl CoA, which ultimately converts to pristanic acid, and this pristanic acid generates propionyl CoA, acetyl CoA and isobutyryl CoA. Now coming to Refsum's disease or phytanic acid storage syndrome, this takes place because of the deficiency of the enzyme phytanate alpha hydroxylase. So there is a reduced alpha hydroxylation of phytanic acid. So there is an accumulation of phytanic acid. It accumulates to about 20% of the serum fatty acids and about 50% of the hepatic fatty acids in total. It is actually an inheritable autosomal recessive disorder. And due to the accumulation of phytanic acid in our nervous system, there is a progressive neurological deterioration followed by tremors, defective or unsteady gait, and a poor night vision. Coming to the second minor pathway of fatty acid oxidation, the omega oxidation, that is applicable only for the long chain and the medium chain fatty acids. Now, what is omega oxidation? Omega oxidation is actually the removal of one carbon unit from C omega atom, or the carbon atom that is last from the beginning carboxyl group of the fatty acid. This has been discovered by Verkade and his group. It occurs in almost all organisms, including the vertebrates. Subcellularly, this reaction takes place in the endoplasmic reticulum of the microsomes of the liver and the kidney cells. Now, one important feature of omega oxidation is that it is applicable for the long chain fatty acids as also 10 to 12 carbon atom containing medium chain fatty acids as well. Now, first of all, the omega oxidation proceeds via a hydroxylation reaction at the C omega carbon atom by cytochrome P450, which is a monooxygenase enzyme that utilizes NADPH and oxygen. Now, the OH group generated at the C omega is next oxidized to a carboxylic acid group, so that the compound now becomes an alpha omega dicarboxylic acid. It is then converted to the coenzyme A derivative, and then it is further oxidized by the usual beta oxidation pathway. Coming to the mechanism of omega oxidation, which is shown in this slide, carbocyclic acid with the help of NADPH and oxygen gets converted to an alcohol out of the hydroxylation reaction at C omega. Next, this alcohol is converted to an aldehyde. After that, this aldehyde gets oxidized to form an alpha omega dicarboxylic acid, which then gets converted to the coenzyme A intermediates and enters the normal beta oxidation pathway and generates succinate and adipate as the end products. Coming to a very important industrial significance of omega oxidation, omega oxidation enables bacteria to degrade the detergents which are derived from the fatty acids, as also it helps the bacteria to clean up the oil spillage over ocean surfaces. Now, coming to another disorder which is called the dicarboxylic aciduria, there is a deficiency of the mitochondrial medium chain acyl-CoA dehydrogenase enzyme, or MCAD. This pathway takes place in all organisms, predominantly in the liver, in the adipose tissues, and in the mammary glands of higher animals. Subcellularly, this takes place in the cytosol and requires the presence of citrate mandatorily. The fatty acid biosynthesis pathway is regulated by an enzyme complex that are made up of 7 different proteins. Now, there are 2 units which are attached at each and every step of the biosynthesis of fatty acids, and these 2 units are actually derived from acetyl-CoA. So, what we call the acetyl-CoA, it is known as the primer or the starter of the fatty acid biosynthesis pathway. One key important intermediate of this biosynthesis pathway is malonyl-CoA. And during these reactions, the substrates remain bound to a low molecular weight conjugated protein whose name is the acyl carrier protein, or ACP. Now, as can be shown in this slide, acetyl-CoA will undergo a condensation reaction with carbon dioxide and ATP in presence of biotin to yield malonyl-CoA. This malonyl-CoA will accept ACP and will get converted to malonyl ACP. This malonyl ACP will then get converted to butyryl ACP, and then the other steps will continue. 6 more steps for the C16 fatty acids and 7 more steps for the C18 fatty acids. Now, this fatty acid biosynthesis reaction requires ATP as the energy currency and reducing power in form of the NADPH. For example, the synthesis of C16 palmitic acid requires 7 ATP and 14 NADPH. As can be shown in this reaction, 8 molecules of acetyl-CoA will react with 7 molecules of ATP, 14 molecules of NADPH and 14 H plus to yield palmitic acid, 14 NADP plus, 8 coenzyme A, 6 water, 7 ADP and 7 PI. Fatty acid biosynthesis is regulated by 4 mechanisms. First, the short-term regulation. Now, it has to be borne in mind that fatty acid biosynthesis pathway needs the help of the very important enzyme acetyl-CoA carboxylase that catalyzes the first rate-limiting committed step of this biosynthesis pathway. Now, this particular enzyme is inhibited by palmitoyl-CoA and the glucagon-stimulated cyclic AMP-mediated increase in phosphorylation. The activity of this enzyme is enhanced by insulin-stimulated dephosphorylation and, as I was talking about previously, by citrate. Coming to the second regulation, the long-term regulation operative over a long periods of time. For example, insulin will stimulate the synthesis of acetyl-CoA carboxylase and fatty acid synthase enzymes, whereas the presence of PUFA and starvation will decrease the concentrations of both these enzymes. Thirdly, fatty acid metabolism is controlled by hormones in our body, for example, epinephrine, norepinephrine, glucagon, and insulin. Coming to the fourth regulation, the enzyme carnitine acyltransferase 1 or CAT1 is actually inhibited by malonyl-CoA. Cholesterol biosynthesis, this is a very important component of the eukaryotic cell membranes where it forms a structural raft. As also it is important because it is a precursor of steroid hormones and bile acids. Cholesterol comprises of a repeating unit of the isoprenoid unsaturated hydrocarbons, and its deposition in the arteries will lead to 2 very important diseases of mankind, the cardiovascular disease and stroke. Cholesterol biosynthesis takes place in the liver, and as I was talking about, cholesterol biosynthesis exemplifies how a long chain carbon skeleton can be obtained from a 5-carbon unsaturated isoprenoid unit that comprises of repeating units of isoprene, which is 2-methyl-1,3-butadiene. This particular slide will show you how cholesterol is biosynthesized starting from 3-hydroxy-3-methyl-glutaryl-CoA or HMG-CoA. This converts to mevalonic acid, which forms squalene, and ultimately squalene forms lanosterol, from which out of 19 reactions we get to have cholesterol. The deposition of high levels of cholesterol in blood is called hypercholesterolemia, and it actually takes place by 2 mechanisms. Firstly, there is a genetic disorder called the familial hypercholesterolemia or FH, where there is a deficiency of functional low density lipoprotein or LDL receptors. And secondly, if one consumes a high cholesterol rich diet, then also hypercholesterolemia may develop in him. Biosynthesis of triacylglycerol, it takes place in adipose tissues and liver and to a lesser extent in the kidney cells. This also takes place in higher plants, as also bacteria contain smaller amounts of triacylglycerol. Triacylglycerol synthesis takes place from glycerol. Glycerol is first phosphorylated by ATP to form glycerol 3-phosphate. This glycerol 3-phosphate, by accepting a fatty acyl-CoA, gets converted to lysophosphatidic acid. This, upon receiving the fatty acyl-CoA once more, gets converted to phosphatidic acid, which by losing inorganic phosphate gets converted to diacylglycerol. This diacylglycerol will receive another fatty acyl-CoA to form triacylglycerol at the end. Biosynthesis of phospholipids and glycolipids. There are two categories of phospholipids, the glycerophospholipids and the sphingophospholipids, whereas there are two categories of glycolipids, the glyceroglycolipids and the sphingoglycolipids. Biosynthesis of the glycerophospholipids. In mammalian system, the biosynthesis of phospholipids takes place on the surface of the smooth endoplasmic reticulum or ACR in almost all tissues including the liver. First, the biosynthesis of phosphatidylcholine, as is shown in this slide. There are two pathways. First of all, choline gets converted to phosphocholine by reacting with ATP. Then this phosphocholine forms CDP choline, which finally forms phosphatidylcholine. In the second pathway, phosphatidylethanol receives 3 methyl groups from S-adenosylmethionine, the methyl group donor, or SAM as it is known as, in 3 successive steps and produce phosphatidylcholine at the end. Biosynthesis of phosphatidylethanol. First, ethanolamine gets phosphorylated by ATP to form phosphoethanolamine. Then this phosphoethanolamine reacts with CTP to form cytidine diphosphoethanolamine. Then this CDP ethanolamine reacts with diacylglycerol to form phosphatidylethanolamine. Coming to the biosynthesis of phosphatidylserine, this is actually a head group exchange reaction. From phosphatidylethanolamine, we get to have phosphatidylserine because serine will displace the head group ethanolamine. After their synthesis are over, the phospholipids are stored either in the smooth endoplasmic reticulum membrane or they are transported to some other locations to perform their activities. Coming to the biosynthesis of phosphatidylglycerol, phosphatidic acid first forms CDP-DAG, that is cytidine diphosphate diacylglycerol, which then reacts with the glycerol 3-phosphate to yield 3-phosphatidyl-1-glycerol 3-phosphoric acid, which finally forms phosphatidylglycerol. Biosynthesis of cardiolipin and phosphatidylinositol. Cardiolipin makes up 20% of the membrane lipids of the mitochondrial inner membrane. It is also found in bacterial membrane. PI or phosphatidylinositol is actually a precursor of second messengers. In animal tissues, there are two pathways from CDP diacylglycerol. First, it reacts with phosphatidylglycerol to form cardiolipin, and in the second pathway, it reacts with inositol to form phosphatidylinositol. In bacteria, phosphatidylglycerol will combine with another molecule with the release of glycerol and formation of cardiolipin. Coming to the biosynthesis of the glycerophospholipids in E. coli, first, glycerol 3-phosphate will combine with acyl ACP to form lysophosphatidic acid. It will accept another acyl ACP to form phosphatidic acid. Then this phosphatidic acid will accept a CTP to form CDP diacylglycerol, and then this CDP diacylglycerol will react with serine to form phosphatidylserine, and then this phosphatidylserine will undergo a decarboxylation to yield phosphatidylethanol-amine. Biosynthesis of sphingophospholipid, one important member is the sphingomyelin or the N-acyl sphingosine phosphocholine. This is present in the nerve cell membranes, so the biosynthesis will take place only in higher eukaryotes like animals. In the biosynthetic pathway, the reactants are palmitoyl-CoA and serine and yield the sphingomyelin. Biosynthesis of sphingoglycolipids. First of all, we will study the biosynthesis of ceramide. As I have already discussed, palmitoyl-CoA will react with serine and ultimately form ceramide from 3-ketosphingane, sphinganine and dihydroceramide as the intermediates. Biosynthesis of cerebrosides. There are two cerebrosides, galactocerebroside and glucocerebrosides. This slide will show you how ceramide is getting converted to cerebroside from UDP glucose. Biosynthesis of globosides and gangliosides. Gangliosides are very important lipids at the neuronal membranes, particularly at the synaptic junctions. And the biosynthesis of both globosides and gangliosides will be catalyzed by a series of glycosyl transferase enzymes. This slide will show you how palmitoyl-CoA and serine react to form ceramide, which I have already discussed. From ceramide glucosyl transferase will come and it will form glucosyl ceramide. Then glycosyl transferase will come and form GM2, GM1 gangliosides as also some important globosides. Sphingolipid degradation and lipid storage disease. Now, sphingolipids are generally degraded in the lysosomes by the hydrolytic enzymes. So, one important lipid storage disease is the Tay-Sachs disease, and some other important ones are the Fabry's disease, the Gaucher's disease and the Niemann-Pick disease. To tell you some important aspects of the Tay-Sachs disease, this is an autosomal recessive disorder in the enzyme hexosaminidase A that releases N-acetyl galactosamine from the ganglioside GM2. So, the ganglioside GM2 accumulates in the nervous system as shell-like inclusions and cause mental retardation. So, although infants born with Tay-Sachs disease appear pretty normal, but they soon develop some neurological deteriorations, like they become progressively weaker, they become mentally retarded, and they finally get blinded and die at the age of only 3 years. So, in today's lecture of mine on lipid metabolism, we have discussed on peroxisomal beta oxidation, bacterial beta oxidation, beta oxidation system in the seeds. We have talked about alpha and omega oxidation. We have discussed on fatty acid biosynthesis and cholesterol biosynthesis. We have even covered the biosynthesis of triacylglycerols and phospholipids, as also we have covered some important lipid storage diseases. So this is all for today, and thank you so much.